Seeing none, we'll move over to presentations, and Rabbi Barb, if you'll come on up, if you would, please. And then we have one more following. We just added on to the agenda as well. So Rabbi, please sign in, state your name for the record, and your issue, if you would, please.
Okay, I can't speak and write at the same time, so we need a pause for a moment.
That's okay.
Thank you for allowing me to be on the agenda, and thank you all to the council members for all that you do on behalf of our community. The Ministerium's mission, the Monroeville Interfaith Ministerium's mission, is to promote in the Monroeville area fellowship among religious leaders, respect, understanding, and cooperation among people of all faiths, goodwill, compassion, and justice. We are proud to represent the religious diversity of Monroeville: Christians and Jews, Muslims, Unitarian Universalists, Sikhs, Hindus, and Jains. And the members of the Ministerium are Bethel African Methodist Episcopal Church, Bethel AME, East Suburban Unitarian Universalist Church, Emmanuel Lutheran Church of East Montpen Hills, Forbes Regional Hospital Pastoral Care, Garden City United Methodist, Good Shepherd Lutheran, Hindu Jain Temple, Metropolitan Community Church of Pittsburgh, Monroeville Church of the Brethren, Monroeville Mall Ministry, Monroeville United Methodist, Muslim Community Center of Greater Pittsburgh, North American Martyrs Roman Catholic Church, St. Bernadette Roman Catholic Church, Temple David Tri-State Sikh Cultural Society, UPMC East Pastoral Care. We invite each of you to go back to your house of worship if they are not already a member of the Ministerium and consider becoming a member, as well as to all of you watching television, all of you who are sitting here. We feel that the work we do is really important work. There is a fact. The fact is that poverty in America, including here in our area, is moving to the suburbs. There are facts and figures. There are charts I could share with you, but I won't. I've sat at community meetings here in Monroeville where the following is expressed in one way or another. We don't want poor neighbors. We don't want poor neighbors. Maybe it has to do with Section 8 housing or whatever way that it's stated, but that's been said aloud. And I think that one of the things that we need to do is to change the language. We don't want our neighbors to be poor. Isn't that it? We don't want our neighbors to be poor. Every religion, every culture has the golden rule or some form of do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Or my preference, straight from Leviticus, love your neighbor as yourself. Ve'ahavta l'recha kamocha in Hebrew. The work of the Ministerium started in this area of the Ministerium that I'm going to address. Started with something we call the end-of-month meals. For a full year, last year, we came together with different folks from different houses of worship, cooking a meal that folks in Monroeville who are reliant on the Monroeville food pantries could enjoy. Whether they came in and they ate at the Hindu Jain Temple, at Temple David, at North American Martyrs, at various places we rotated, or whether they took it back, whether because somebody was immobile and they couldn't get there or they didn't have enough cars so they had to share it and bring it back. And we realized that we weren't fully meeting a need and that we never, as it were, sold out of the meals. We would cook 100 a month. We'd cut down to 75. And whether it was hard to get to where we were serving or whatever, and we realized we needed to do some listening. We established last January something called the Community Conversation, and the mayor has been an important participant. We thank you. By the way, the next meeting of the Community Conversation, which meets approximately every 6 weeks, is Friday, October 30th. We happen to be hosting it at Temple David at 9 o'clock. We never end past 10:30. So if any of you, yes, sorry. If any of you would like to come, any of you, we welcome you to come. Again, it is on October 30th from 9 to 10:30 at Temple David on Northern Pike. One of the things that came out of the community conversation was what the needs are in our area, and one has to do with poverty. So in June, we hosted at the Convention Center a poverty simulation. We had approximately 70 participants. An hour of time was broken into 15-minute segments, and in 15 minutes, people had to stay out of, they had to stay housed, as it were. They had to do certain things. They had to pay for transportation, they had to get their kids to school, they had to feed their family, and so forth. But they had to be able to do all that without being evicted from where they were living. The simulation taught a lot of people in Monroeville about the issues of poverty. The people who manned the various stations were actually people living in poverty, struggling to get out. So they also learned something and saw the other side, as it were. The next step here is that we're hoping, actually at the October 30th meeting, that some of the managers of the local apartment houses here in Monroeville will come so that we can help them better understand the needs of their clients. I shouldn't even say that they could help us better understand the needs of their residents, of their renters, and that together we can work in order to help those people, whether it is something about transportation, whether it is on some other level. But we're feeling that we can know that people are struggling with poverty in our community, but if we don't actually talk to them directly, we're guessing. So we want to have direct conversation. We are also trying to work on issues of transportation. We are understanding how complex those are, but we also understand that things like Heritage Bus is a way in that can help people, or even carpooling could be possibly. So we're trying to work on that issue as well. We are hopefully in January, and I'll look over to our library representatives, hosting or starting a community read, as we call it, on this book, Nickeled and Dimed. There are going to be 100 copies available. The library is gracious to purchase them. We're going to also have them at houses of worship that can be internally taken out and read and brought back and so forth, with the idea being that we learn what it is to struggle with poverty. A woman who is not impoverished puts herself into the situation in order to see if she can actually work at a low-wage job and afford housing. And in 3 parts of the country, frankly, she can't. She writes, though, with humor, it's engaging, and she has some ideas of how to go forward at the end. We want to use this not only as an opportunity for reading, but an opportunity to talk about, and what can we do here? What is the next step in Monroeville for us to go ahead? We have also, next week, Bridges Out of Poverty training, and I thank my own ward councilman, Nick, for bringing this up last Thursday. Thank you. Bridges Out of Poverty training is going to come on a flyer in a moment from Reverend Schaefer and Reverend Juan. That is a training at the library for folks who are interacting with people living in poverty. So here is the example, right? A physician, a business owner can't understand why people are late, or can't understand why there's not the same values at work, apparently, whatever it might be. This idea of this training is that rather than seeing people who are poor as people in middle class with less money, recognizing all of the forces at work and really trying to understand what they are. So we have some spaces left, and we welcome you. In fact, we think it's really important that members of the council, that members of the school board are able to come. I recognize it's a full day of work, but perhaps this is what our work is. So it is now soon. We've been advertising this for a while, but it is now relatively soon. We are going to keep registration open until Friday, so please do consider coming. And again, the invitation goes to all of you and to all of you who are watching this. We need to not just have compassion, we need to have a little bit more empathy, but more than that, we need to have some tools, right? Tools of language and so forth. So please do consider saying either I'm going to come, or we're going to appoint someone from the council to come and then report back to the council to understand what this training was. And on the other side of the handout is a lecture by Tim Crane that the Ministerium is sponsoring, so I just wanted to throw that in too so you know what we're working on. It is called Moses, Jesus, and Muhammad. It is open to everyone. There's no cost. And it is presented by Dr. Tim Crane of Seton Hill University. He heads the Holocaust Center. He is a Catholic man with a degree in Jewish studies. He's a fascinating scholar, very bright, very engaging. And we are going to have it at Gateway Middle School, so you can see all the details. But if you are not looking at our details, you on television, it is going to be on the 22nd, which is Thursday at 7 o'clock. again, at Gateway Middle School, and it should be really an opportunity for us to better understand who are at least some of our neighbors and how our beginnings religiously were similar, and also respect how they were different as well. So, as I conclude, a reminder is the first step to change our language, that we don't want our neighbors to be poor. We want to love them as ourselves, because only that path will allow Monroeville to be all that it can be. And a second reminder that in celebrating the diversity of Monroeville, all of us grow and thrive. Thank you for your time.
Pastor, Rabbi, I'm sorry.
I take it as respect to be called pastor. That's
Well, forgive me, Rabbi, you
That's
know
fine.
better than that.
That's
At any
fine.
rate, though, no, one comment I'd like to make, and I know you've mentioned Monroeville, but I think we stretch a little bit further now, because we
Yes.
do have families that do come into our food banks that are from around the surrounding area. So I guess what I would like to, for the listening public and for those folks sitting here, we are also reaching out to other communities as well.
Absolutely,
So,
thank you.
And again, and you, great job on that, and I am
Thank you.
working on the apartment managers
Thank
and
you.
have some
Thank you.
commitments already,
Thank you,
so.
thank you. And we are, we recognize this. So Garden City United Methodist Church's food pantry in particular serves others from Turtle Creek and
Sure.
other areas. And because Gateway, of course, is Monroeville and Pitcairn, we are not only saying Monroeville, but as I'm talking to the Monroeville Council, I thought I would focus on us. But the idea of the Ministerium as well as the Monroeville Interfaith Ministerium, as you heard from our list and as you have in front of you, some of our members are in areas contiguous to Monroeville because we all have the same transportation issues and so forth. So at times it's really narrow on Monroeville, like with the apartment managers, and sometimes it's going to be broader as well. But ultimately, we are one another's neighbors.
So hang on, Rabbi. Any questions for our Rabbi, please?
Rabbi, how do you identify
Rabbi,
your
you did the
candidates?
same thing I did, Tom.
I'm sorry.
How do you identify your candidates?
What candidates?
For your program? For the food portion of your program?
Well, so when we had done the end-of-month meals, we only were inviting people who were served by the Monroeville food pantries, right? So now, we don't have a food portion. In other words, we're not serving meals now. But in terms of the congregations, like I said, if you think of them as our clients, that's not quite the right word, but whatever. As I said, they are largely Monroeville, and you have the list of who is currently a part of it, as well as some that are contiguous.
And what age group do you find that it represents?
In terms of poverty,
Yes.
you know, it spans it, because we know from Gateway, the last number I heard officially, and you were at the meeting I was at, it was there are 14 homeless students at Gateway. The number seems to vary between 14 and 30, and frankly, I understand that the number changes weekly. But I am happy is the wrong word, but I can certainly get you statistics in terms of the kinds of figures we have if you want it, but. Yeah.
Have you talked to any of the Meals on Wheels programs?
Yes, so we know that Meals on, one of the programs is out of Forbes Hospital now. They're cooking it there. It's not Forbes program per se. And there's another one that's more Eastmont area that's working with people. It's very interesting because one of the things that I'm learning is that the greatest asset that I'm finding that I can be is to connect people and to learn more information. And one of the things I learned is that Meals on Wheels is not only seniors. I didn't know that. It's also for people who are disabled. So we're trying to better understand also. And one of the avenues that we're going down through the community conversation is to develop a community resource that's accessible. So if somebody has some kind of issue, they know where to call. And the mayor says sometimes he even gets direct calls and then tries to help someone. But wouldn't it be nice if they could really access it, whether they go to the library and, you know, thumb through something or go online if they're able and be able to do it.
I found in some cases that they're too proud to call, or maybe they aren't well enough to call, that type of thing. Have you talked to anybody at the Pitcairn Meals on Wheels?
So I have not personally. We've been trying to help Pitcairn get more involved with our group. So, for example, to the community conversation, we have invited the mayor and the police chief and so forth. So we are still building some of those relationships, but also with Pick Care. Reverend Scott Parsons is someone who is relatively new to be back to the area, I guess is a way to say it, and trying to help. And also through Circles Out of Poverty program, which was in Pitcairn and now in Turtle Creek, they're one of the areas also. So again, I shouldn't say one of the areas, one of the organizations also. So all of these that interlink with one another, we're trying to get them to this table. So again, we can understand what these needs are, but I appreciate those suggestions.
I'd like to thank you and your group for getting involved in this. It's a very important issue, and I know at Gateway, there's 44% of the students are on free breakfast, free lunch.
Right.
And we have to find a way to reach out to help those students too. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
May I ask a question, please?
Go ahead.
How do you inform the public of, your events, what you're doing, when you're doing them? Like the meal program that you had last year, how did anybody know about that
Right.
or?
So that program, again, we were trying to figure out how to offer this, and that was specifically for clients of the Monroeville food pantries.
Okay.
So it went through them. It was not a public program beyond that. But if anyone was receiving meals from Crossroads or from the other food pantries, they then knew about it. Some of the programs, we have a new website, thanks to Reverend Schaefer, which is mimcares.org. It should be on one of those pieces of paper. And so people have to go there, obviously, to find out. But now we're on television, right? I mean, we're trying to get the word out more. Part of it was all of the people who are sitting at the community conversation go back to their various organizations. So we also have both of the hospitals who are involved. We have the library remarkably involved. We have the school remarkably involved. We have the mayor involved. We have the police chief involved. That the idea is also that they're going to filter back, because we don't want to see it as our program. And isn't that nice? You know what the Ministerium's doing over there is that what we as a community can do if we work together.
Right, because the first time I've heard of this program was through the Human Needs and Resource Board that I'm the liaison to.
Right.
And I thought, well, how does anyone else hear about this program?
Right.
How do you get the word out there? I think you're starting to grow, and
Right.
networking is always a great thing, and like you
Right.
say, as you get the word out. But now you have a website, that will help
That's
as
right.
well.
That's right.
So it's going to be a lot of word of mouth and...
Right, and we are happy for any suggestions also, but so far it has been to the people who have been sitting literally at the table for the community conversation through the Gateway Ethics Committee, I mean, through the various groups that we're all involved with filtering out that word. But the problem, I think, with the Ministerium, if I can call it a problem, is that we would come together for a Thanksgiving service, which is wonderfully powerful. By the way, it's the Tuesday before Thanksgiving at MIM, at the Monroeville United Methodist, is wonderfully powerful. But as wonderful to pray together and challenging to pray together, the other side to it is that our mission goes beyond that. So we're really trying to get beyond that and get into the community. So I think we're trying to break those boundaries
I
also.
personally would like to say thank you as well for all the work that you guys are doing and how it's growing and how you're reaching out. And hopefully, this will come a bigger circle with more
Agreed.
people involved.
Agreed.
Well,
Thank
another
you.
good way is what you're doing right now, Rabbi. I mean, if you have like major events coming up or anything, please, we do meet a couple times a month, and this certainly does get viewed fairly on a large scale. So,
Yeah, please come and share.
Yeah, please.
Absolutely, we will, and it will not just be me.
Well, I was going to say, be any of the,
Right.
anybody that's involved, so that would be a.
Well, one
another
of
good
the things that we're going to do is invite you all to read Nickel and Dimed. Not yet, because we didn't give it to you yet, but the library will be having a whole plan for unveiling this book, so to speak, and getting it out there. And again, the idea is not just to read it, but then to talk about, and what can we do, right? That question of affordable housing and the various issues that come forward. So you will have a personal invitation, each of you, as well as school board members and so forth, to really read the book and get involved in those conversations too. So
Great.
I thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.